we are recording, so that's a good time. Good time to wrap up the conversations and not start another game. Right there, Red? You guys good? You good? Okay. Here we go. You guys have seen slope before. You've seen it. You know that when we have a line going through 2 points, you can find the rise, right? Over the run, which is basically the rise is your change in your y's. The run is your change. Triangle is change. It's a symbol for that. So it's just the rise over the run. It's essentially the change in your y's over the change in your x's. You guys have seen this before, right? Nothing new there. Okay. When we find the slope from 2 points that is not on the graph, we can't just say, well, I'm just going to count up how far it is to go between them and count over between them. You have to use this slope formula. Here's the deal. We're going to input our points here into the slope formula. But what if I said, hey, okay, we got a first on the top. Let's go ahead and put the y value on the top. What's one answer that somebody can give if I said, hey, what's the y value? What's one answer? 2. What's the other answer someone could say? 6. So you see that we have to have a system on how to distinguish between one of the xy's and the other xy's. You agree with that? We got to have some kind of way to do that. Okay, so this is not an exponent. When you see y sub 2 and y sub 1, that's a subscript. It's sub just to show that this is the y number 2. This is the y number 1. Okay, so just right below these points, I want you to go ahead and put that. This is our x sub 1, which means from the 1 group, y sub 1. And then go ahead and put in what do you think is going to go in the other point. We can't call it sub 1 again. We have to call it something else. Hey, how about 2? X sub 2, y sub 2. It's just, this is the group number 2, group number 1. If you had different colored markers, you could just say, I'm always going to do the points from the first group in red, the other group in green. Okay, so it's just a way to label it. But when you don't have color markers, you got to use, label in this way. Okay, so this is how I'd like for you to set it up every time. N is equal to make a fraction. And then we're going to make 4 parenthesis sets here with subtraction between them. Because this is just setting up to input it like so. So I'm even going to do a step for you. I'm going to call this y2, y1, x2, x1. Please, as carefully as possible, go ahead and put in your values into our new form here. Essentially, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Use the parentheses so that our signs never get messed up. Our signs don't get messed up. Okay, and I'm going to change this around. All right, let's see. Magnolia, what did you put in for y sub 2? 6. Perfect. All right, Vanessa, how about y sub 1? 2. Great. Okay, Jordan, how about x sub 2? X sub 2?
4.
Okay. And Richard, what do you think? X sub 1? 0. Is that very hard? You just got to be careful, right? You can see how you'd make some mistakes if you're like, well, I didn't label the, I'm just going to remember this is 1 and 2 group. Just label it real quick. 100% you'll get it. Okay. So let's reduce this. We have 4 over 4. So our slope for this one, our slope m is 1. The average rate of change is just their slope. Okay. Thumbs up, sideways, down for finding the slope part. Okay. So I think you've seen that before. You may not have seen or maybe used this that much. This is just point slope form of a line. We have it here, and everything in red with arrows here is what we're going to input. We're going to input information for x sub 1, y sub 1, and our m value. Now, looking at it, we're going to do, for example number 2, find the point slope form from example 1. So let's go ahead and keep that in mind, and we're going to do that right now using these steps. So we're using this form right here, and this is pretty important, so I'd say it's not boxed like That's a key thing. It's a key tool. Let's see. Find the slope. Did we already find the slope? Oh, yeah. The slope is 1. How do we find that? Because example 2 is asking from example 1. From those 2 points, find our equation. M is 1. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put this here. And I want you to go ahead and input the parts that I've left out. What did I leave out here? I left out an x sub 1, y sub 1, and the m value. Go ahead and input what you can. You're saying, well, what do I use for x sub 1, y sub 1? It's from this problem, remember. We're just finishing up the problem right here, so I'd say just use that point right here. You can plug in any point, but if you want to remember every time, you can do that. Okay, if you don't know what we're plugging in, double check with your neighbor, see if they can help you out. Y sub 1, m, x sub 1, let's see. Who needs some help with that? All right, now everybody check with their neighbor, just see if they got the same thing. We got to reduce it still, but we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, sounds like y'all got some. That's fine. Okay. Katie, help me out. What did we put in for y sub 1? 2. Y sub 1 came from our group, our 1 group. It has a 2. 2. Okay. And then, Alondra, what do we do for x sub 1? We better match. 0. All right. And Quinn, how about our m value? M? 1. Everyone could do this? Input it, right? Put one of the points in there, put the slope that just found. Now we just have to work this out and try to simplify it a bit. Let's see, y minus 2. And then 1 times, essentially that's what we have, right? X minus 0 is x. Times 1, I could put a 1 there, but I can leave it out as well. It's fine. Nate, last step. No?
Simplify.
This is perfect. So that's good. But if I just said I want to solve for y, how do we do it? No. Sign language all the way. There it is. You started with sign language. I kept you to it. All right. Who has this problem? Who has this answer? Anybody else? You guys got it, right? Okay. It's a more straightforward problem. We may end up with something a little trickier like this one. Okay, but so far so good, right? Nothing too tricky with this. All right. Now let's look at this problem here. We have to find the equation from the points. Actually, let me think. I might change these points up real quick to 10. Yeah, I'm gonna just change this. So look up here for example 3. I need you to change the y values here because I want this to be. It's going to be 6, so it's going to be 14, that's going to be 2. I just changed the second point, the y value is 14. First point, y value is 2. Okay, so we're just changing that up. I want you to go ahead and input them into our slope form right here, our slope formula part. Go ahead and input that. We're going to see if we could still do all of, you know what, I won't need this. We're going to see if we can input them in here pretty quick. Remember, we're using these points. We're using these points for example 3. We're basically doing example 1 and 2 all the way out. So let's input these. Label them first. Let's see. 1 group, yeah. 2 group. Okay, you got it all in there now. Go ahead and simplify that. And if you want to keep going with the steps, you can keep going with these steps. Y sub 2. y sub 1. x2. Excellent. So the parentheses help. You don't mess up those negative values. Let's see. What's 14 minus 2? 12. And then negative makes this positive 2. 4 plus 2, 6. So my slope is 2. Easy. That's like the first step. Find your slope. And then I'm going to go and bring this over y minus x minus. So we're putting in a y sub 1, an m, and an x sub 1. Go ahead and input that. See if you can simplify it quick. Two. Haha, negative 2. All right. Ready? I just put it in there really careful. What should I do? And I did. Anyone else questions, confusions? We just got to simplify, right? Keep doing it. Minus 2, 2x plus 2. Some people wanted to bring that negative 2 over the other side first, but I'd say let's get the other side ready a little bit more by distributing that. Minus 2, 2x plus 4. Oh, God. Oh, God, so close. Okay. Leah, finish this up. Add the 2. Got to get rid of that. Let's add it. Let's add it. See ya. 2x plus 6. Everybody's getting it? Thumbs up, sideways, down. Let's see it. Double thumbs. Good, 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 good. All right, guys. Yes?
Do you simplify that after that? Or is that the final answer?
The final answer is going to be solved for y, so we know we're done. And there's really, the only simplification we could do is to factor out a 2. But right now, this is the most useful form to have because it's slope-intercept. If I factor out a 2, it'd be harder to see how to graph this quick. So I know that's 6, right? Up to over 1. I can graph this much faster. So I say let's leave it in the form when we're doing linears where it's easiest to graph. Solve for y is easy. Okay, that's a good question. Anyone else? No. Was that a good Monday lesson to start our brains back into the week? What should we say to the people so that they finally subscribe? I'm on like 231, and then the next day I'm at 229. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the wrong direction. So what are people apparently doing because they love Kit Kats?
Don't unsubscribe.
How about just subscribe? We should say that. Just subscribe on 3? Just subscribe already? Just unsubscribe, don't unsubscribe. On 3. All right. Just subscribe, don't unsubscribe on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Just subscribe, don't unsubscribe.
On 3.